want you guys to take note of every sandwich that you've had in your life. And the reason I mention that is when you're caught in a very humbling experience where you have stalwarts like the two gentlemen who've spoken before me, and you have alma mater speaking after you, the thing to take note of is that the most memorable thing in the sandwich is always in the middle. So that's me. And I say that with all humility. I won't take too much time, but I will try and get you to see the difference between two classes of people, innovators and entrepreneurs. And these are, they have fundamentally different methodologies in operating. Quick show of hands, how many entrepreneurs in the room? Okay, great. How many innovators? And clearly there will be an overlap, an intersect of the two circles. Excellent. Can I request the entire room to stand up? And what you'll do for the next 2 seconds is to just stretch. Thank you very much. Please have a seat. There's no reason why I did that. Yeah, exactly. Other than to wake myself up. I don't know about you. And that's a function of really just one thing. One of my favorite sports is baseball. And regardless of every game that is played in a stadium, in the 7th inning, there's something called the 7th inning stretch. And the entire stadium wakes up and they stretch. And that is exactly what you did. But thanks for that. So what I'm going to do is walk you through two stories. A story of innovation, which is very, very unheralded. But I was very much a part of the tail end of that story, and I live to tell the tale. And hopefully you'll appreciate why innovation is what it is, and I'll try to gel that with the story of T-Hub. Quick show of hands for the last time. Anyone who does not know of T-Hub? Wow, really? Everybody knows about T-Hub? Clearly my PR machinery is working. Thank you. As an entrepreneur, lesson number one, always sell yourself. Case in point. So the first story begins in 1969. A gentleman in UCLA by the name of Kleinrock built this beautiful rack filled with vacuum tube-based electronics and decided to call his friend in Stanford Research Labs and sent a message on a piece of copper wire on a telephone line. And on his terminal, he decided to type out 5 letters, L-O-G-I-N. And the idea was over the copper line, after a whole bunch of mucks and demucks at the other end, you will get the terminal at the other end to display L-O-G-I-N. So he typed L, picked up the phone, called his friend and asked him, did you get the L? A few minutes later, the L shows up on the terminal. Pressed O, a few minutes later, O shows up at the end of the terminal. Pressed G, and the system crashed. So literally and figuratively, the first ever words on the internet was lo. Lo and behold. But the story doesn't end there. This is 1969, Kleinrock. Fast forward to 1974, Bob Kahn met with another genius, Windsurf, and they decided to build a beautiful stacked layered approach to something called TCP, and then they eventually became TCP/IP. But the beauty of TCP/IP is that it made it very, very amenable for the entire tech community to build on top of that, on top of the existing hardware from 1969. For those nerds and techies and electrical engineers in the room, other than me, you will understand and appreciate what TCP/IP is. TCP/IP allowed the fraternity of engineers to come together and build on top of that. Fast forward to 1984, Tim Berners-Lee comes up with the notion of building on top of these two pieces of infrastructure, and he built HTML, HTTP, and URL. And the idea there was to take the existing infrastructure and have the ability for grandmothers across the world to be able to communicate. And today, the internet, which drives everything from this guy to WhatsApp, to Instagram, to Google, to Facebook, to the ambulance vehicle that drives across the road, to GPS systems, they all bank on fundamentally 3 things that have not changed from then till now, from HTTP, HTML, URL, to TCP/IP, to the good old-fashioned rack, which of course has gone through digital transformation of communication. So the question is, why did I tell you the story? And the answer is open innovation. At no point in this journey did any of these guys come and decide that I'm going to build a patent out of it, and for every little packet that is transferred, I'm going to make money out of it. Had that happened, all the wonderful things that you're able to do with this guy today would probably, arguably, not have taken off. And that is the fundamental idea of open innovation. Without open innovation, most things that you see that drives, in the Indian context at least, frugality through technology would and will not happen. That's story number one, and I want you to identify with that because that's open innovation. Story number two, and I'll try to bring semblances from my own life, is that of the entrepreneur. You know, unfortunately today we are caught up in the world where entrepreneurship is lifestyle. It's a fun thing to do. Most entrepreneurs go out and build business plans as if to demonstrate that the need to build a business is to go raise capital. When in reality, if anything, that's far from the truth, and it should be the exact opposite. You raise capital to go build a business because you're on the path to building something new and solving a pain point. And keep that in mind. Entrepreneurship is not about building $1 billion business. Entrepreneurship is about having $1 million in about probably a year or two, running into working capital issues where you get a $2 million order and you don't have the capital to serve it, and therefore you go to the bank, you ask for an LC, you put down collateral, and the collateral doesn't come from anything but your own house as a promoter. Halfway through the project, things tumble. Your 100-member team now has not been paid for 2 months. 60 of them quit because they have their own families to serve. You go back to your wife crying, and you figure out that I've got to put my house down as collateral and probably sell it. You ask your parents at the age of, in your mid-30s, that I need money because I'm a bit of a failure at this point in time. Go back, put that money down, and you go all in. That is entrepreneurship. It is all in. There are no two ways about it. This is not meant for all. And mark my words, this is the toughest thing that you will do in your lives. You will deal with the worst crises hitting you at the same time. You will have the trifecta of a shitstorm hitting you. That is entrepreneurship. And if you're willing to go down that path, go down that path. And that is what will make the next India. That will be what will allow us to become the next density of Israel. So on those two notes, let me try and converge and quickly summarize. The reason why we do what we do at T-Hub is fundamentally by understanding that you build an ecosystem from ground up. To build an ecosystem from ground up and become the next Silicon Valley, you need three things. You need diversity, you need density, and you need momentum. You need diversity of race, you need diversity of gender, you need diversity of technologies, you need diversity of demographics. You just need diversity. Without that, that's the foundation of laying an entrepreneurial ecosystem. You need density because in a little cluster, like you both mentioned, the ability to move the entire ecosystem comes from having that density. You need momentum because as large companies move, the smaller ones, the middle of the model also gets pushed. You need those three things. And that's what we've been able to pull off in the last 2 years at T-Hub. And arguably, that story will not work for all. Every single cluster, every single city, every single nation state has its own story. This has been our story, and we've pivoted multiple times to make this happen. So on that note, I'm going to end by just quoting two of my favorite people. One is Michael Jordan, and this is true to the context of entrepreneurship. I have failed 9,000 shots in my life. I have been given 300 opportunities to win a game, and I have been given the ball 36 times to take the winning shot, and I have failed. I have failed, I have failed, I have failed again, and I have failed again, and that is why I succeed. That is entrepreneurship. Thank you. It should go to Michael Jordan, not me. And on the last note, the other favorite gentleman that I adore and love is Einstein. And this is true to the context of innovation. He said, if you cannot explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't have it in your own head. And innovation is exactly that. You got to get iteratively closer and closer and closer to the problem that you're trying to solve, which is why it's different from invention. The closer you get through simplicity, the more innovative it gets. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks a lot for putting up with me. Thank you.